Hello guys, and welcome back to the How to Animate YouTube channel. And I apologise for the lack of videos lately. I've been very busy with my students. They're all learning very well. I still have one spot available for next month. If you're interested, then go to the website and check it out. So today I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to do an hour of animation with minimal editing. Okay, so I'm going to try not to cut anything out, and we are going to be using a rig from Long Winter Studios. So if you don't know about Long Winter, it's basically a subscription service, and they've got a whole bunch of rigs on there, all very nice. This one's called The Lady, I think. I really just love the proportions of this character. It just kind of looks like a cross between like a Fortnite and sort of like The Incredibles. Yeah, lovely proportions. So I created a couple of blades for her here, in keeping with her character. And what I'm going to be doing for this animation is I've filmed a bunch of reference and cut it together. I intend to add a few flips and stuff into this. Obviously I can't do that because I'm not an acrobat. So I'll show you the reference I've got. Okay, I might not necessarily use all of this, but these are the moves that I picked out that are quite good and could possibly flow from one another. So very simple moves, just left and right mostly, a couple of stabs, just hitting various nice poses. So we're going to take this reference and start blocking out some stuff. So it's nice to sit down and actually do some animation. Okay, so I've already roughed in this base pose here. So in the reference we've got a bit of an idle. I'll add that later. Okay, so I've had to cut two bits of reference together, so this will be our first pose coming up. Okay, so it'll be a keyframe, will be probably, yeah, let's do that as a keyframe. So I'm going to be working on stepped mode to start, or actually just frame by frame I guess, which is basically step mode. So let's put this pose in. Okay, so I'm looking for what the spine is doing here. So we've got quite a low pose here, so we need to kind of start bringing her back and up a bit. Okay, because this is going to be an anticipation, I'm thinking, let me just see how this step is. I'll see, this is the problem, cutting two bits of reference together. Okay, so yeah, we're going to keep her on the back foot for this, and we're going to do the step during the actual strike itself. So I've got a anticipation pose put in here. So this is going to act as a springboard into the next move. The strike is actually a double strike coming from this kind of direction. So it's kind of coming up this way. Okay, so we need to try and build that in. So what I'm going to do is actually find the extreme of this, which is this pose here. I'm going to build this one first, then I'm going to let the computer help me with that in between. So I'm going to put this pose in. This is Right, so we've got this pose here. You see how I've exaggerated this line coming up. I'm going to push this a little bit further, I think, just so we get a nice C shape coming through this way. So this is an important thing as well, like although I'm using the reference here, I'm kind of posing to what looks good on her as well. Okay, so this is the pose I've come up with, so slightly different from the reference. I've sort of concentrated on getting this line of action going through the body like this. So it's an important thing when dealing with reference, it's not to copy it too much, try and build something that actually works with the character you're doing. So the movement's basically going to be the same, the choreography is going to be the same, but I'm just building something that's actually going to look good on her. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is figure out a breakdown for this move. Okay, so it's a double strike, so I quite like that frame there. So I'm going to use this as a rough guide, this kind of pose. So I'm going to let the computer help me out a little bit to get from here to here. Just going to drag that along. Okay, I'm going to set this to linear. Okay, so that's the pose it's given us. The reason the arms are so messed up is they're oriented to the body. So if I move this, they're always trying to point in a direction. So let's go ahead and fix these arms up first. Okay, so I'm just trying to work out the arcs for these sword strikes. So I'm going to delay this one a little bit more. Okay, it's starting to feel quite powerful. I'm just going to delay this chest as well, coming around. So the good thing about working in this method is it makes you think in terms of drawings. So at the moment I'm just thinking in terms of, okay, what's a cool pose, you know, sort of scrubbing through, seeing how that would flow and work together once we start putting more frames in. Okay, so we're doing a bit more of a 1-2 now, as opposed to the reference. I think it all comes through in 1. Yeah, so I kind of prefer bang, bang. So we're going to do 2 kind of separate strikes. Almost like this one is parrying something out of the way. Okay, so if I scrub through now, you see that's looking quite cool. Getting some power into this strike now. Okay, let's have a look at the next move. Okay, so it's kind of similar. It's like a quick kind of 1-2. Strike, 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 spin. Okay, so these are kind of samey. Which I guess is fine because I've done something different for the first attack. The first attack is now a 1-2. So I guess coming through this could actually be a proper double strike. So, okay, let's have a look at the poses. Okay, so it'll be something like this. It's quite a weak pose, so we're going to strengthen this up quite a bit. So I'm going to do what I did last time. I think as well I might as well just add a slow out for this at this point. So what I'm going to do is just drag along. Okay, I'm going to flatten this. Okay, I'm going to keep dragging along. So I want something close to this. That will do. So 7 I'll save and then I'll just bring everything back. Okay, so I'm creating a pose that's quite similar to this just to give me a bit of a slow out. Okay, so I decided to go for a completely different pose, which is this one. So the idea with this is you've got this afterwards, which is kind of could work as a deflection, and then a spin. Okay, I kind of want this spin here to be a bit more of a jump. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come from this kind of pose, which would be the equivalent of this one, and make this movement here. So she's going to come up, deflect, and then spin back round. A little bit more jumpy than what's going on in the reference. Okay, so the next pose I'm going to do is just fill in from here to here. So it's going to be like a double downward strike. Okay, so I'm just going to build this breakdown here. Okay, so as I was posing that breakdown, I realised more and more that it was actually becoming an anticipation. So we now have a slow out into this, a couple of frames just to hold this. Then we need to build up energy again. Different kind of strike coming down, so the blades reverse to get their proper edge alignment during the anticipation. Okay, and then the slice through. Change this pose to be more on the back foot. Okay, so what we're going to do, instead of breaking the flow and having her come back up this way to do another strike to then go into the spin, I'm just going to cut that straight out. I'm going to make this flow really nicely by probably bringing her through a little bit more during this bit. Okay, so going well off reference at the moment, which is fine. I'm going to come back to it in a minute. Okay, so if this was a bit more like this, coming up, so we've got bang, keep her momentum coming forward like this. So I'm just kind of thinking in terms of flow at the moment, just very rough. Okay, you see how that flows a lot better already. Okay, she's going to pivot on one foot. Okay, so we need to keep her moving forward even more during this bit. Actually, she would be back. Okay. It's a bit more dancey. Okay, so one up, hold. I'm going to hold that for another frame. So, and then I'm going to create a nice breakdown here of this foot stretching back. So she's going to come forward very fast, catch her weight. She's going to do a sort of a slow out to absorb all that forward momentum and the turn. Okay, and then come back down into another cut that will then sweep around this way and go into what we've got here for this spin. Okay, and that's going to flow much nicer. So again, just, you know, references there. You can use it, you can not use it, whatever kind of works. Don't be enslaved to your reference, is my point. What I need to do now is create another slow out here. So it'll be between 5 and 6. So I'm just going to stick a key on 5 and 6, make sure everything's keyed. It's going to move everything along quite far. Okay, just set that to linear. Okay, so I'm looking for something that's close to 27. Okay, so let's try 26. Okay, that kind of works. I'm just going to keep the arms moving in this direction a little bit. Okay, so we've got quite a nice opportunity here to do a big smear frame between 7 and 8. You see, this is a massive change of shape here. So what we can do is, because this leg here has come up at an arc like this, I'd kind of want a pose that has this leg stretched down, her hips still up and then dragging. So we might need a couple of frames here just to define what I've got in mind. Okay, so we're going to use as much stretching as we can to get this to work. I can kind of see how it's going to work. It's going to be quite a big smear frame, so this should be good. Okay, so again, just going to let the computer help out a little bit. Okay, so it's done quite a good job. I think I quite like... Okay, let's go with 11. It's going to move everything back. Okay, so this foot here I want to land first. This is what's really going to sell this, because we're kind of doing a direction reversal here. She's come up, she's anticipated back, she's come forward really quick, and now we're cutting down. So this foot here would look really good if it was actually leading this entire action here. So we're going to stretch that as far as it will go. Okay, I'm going to bring all this up. Okay, I'm going to try and shape this into some sort of breakdown that has a really nice kind of arcing shape to it. Okay, so I've done the smear frame. Let me show it to you. Okay, so look how broken and distorted all that is. But it doesn't matter. Okay, this is where the magic in animation happens. Okay, because when we scrub through now, you see we're just starting to draw that arc through. Everything's following the line of action. Now, as long as it's quick, scrub through quickly, we're going to get a really nice effect, okay, especially when we add a slow in to this now. So let's go ahead and do that. So you see, comes through, we've got a bit of a slow in here. I think for a move this quick, we're going to have to keep it flowing pretty quickly around, because the next move we are going to do is this. Okay, so just kicking off the back foot, coming round, strike, strike. I think you're ready to start this spin. Okay, so she's already coming up, back round. Okay, so all we're going to do is keep her momentum going round in this arc, kick off this back leg to get into the spin. Okay, so next pose is going to be something similar to this. Maybe a bit further along. Okay, so we're probably closer to that. So it's not exactly the same kind of spin, because we're going to be continuing on in this direction and coming off this back foot. So this is going to be slightly different from the reference as well. Okay, but let's start posing this up and see how it goes. Okay, so I don't know if you was able to follow along there. That was a lot of back and forth just to try and get her into a position where she could jump from. So I found that the slow in was kind of a bit too extreme. It was kind of sticky, so I had to keep her moving in this direction. Now I've got somewhat of an anticipation pose going on that kind of works as a slow out as well into this. Maybe that could just come around a little bit more. Sometimes you just find yourself in a bit of a rut like that. You just got to work through it. Just keep pressing on until you get something that looks okay. From here, this is quite a good position to actually do the spinning jump from. Right, so this is how it's looking now. So starting to build that flow in. Need a few more frames here and there just to define this. If you watch the head coming around, it's not a terribly nice arc. So I think that can be fixed just with a few more frames here and there, but these are just key poses at the moment, so I'm not too worried. I've completely busted the neck. I don't know if that's because I've got urine facing forward, but again, I'll fix that later. But for now, yeah, starting to flow into this jump a little bit. So I've added a couple more in-betweens off camera. So let me just scrub through this slowly so you can see what's going on. So we've got the anticipation, which then does a double upward cut. All that energy is absorbed along that line of action into a slow out. Okay, we then have a smear frame to get her back in the opposite direction. Okay, and she drags the blades behind her. So following this arc down to then start getting into the jump. So the plan for the next video is to have her keep jumping in this direction. Okay, she's then going to spin in this direction as well, maybe do 1 or 2 spins in midair, not too sure yet, and then come to a land. And yeah, and we'll have a look at the reference and figure out where to go from there. Maybe just a few more moves afterwards just to finish, and then I'll start going in and adding even more frames so it works at the proper frame rate. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe and all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.